In my opinion, Matthias de Ligt has been one of Manchester United's best performers so far this season. Particularly the performances against Arsenal and Chelsea, the way that he battled was key to the way that we wanted to play. I'm going to tell you why. Now, so far this week, we have been discussing the fact that Manchester United like to start games fast. We like to start with an intense high press, with the aim of unsettling the opposition, forcing them to play the ball long. But of course, that only works if you can then actually win the long ball, right? For example, you could go really aggressive, you could push all your players high to press the opposition, but if they then play the long ball and you're terrible at dealing with it, then it's actually going to be a massive problem. You're just giving the opposition easy territory. But, fortunately, De Ligt has started the season on fire. We saw it on day one. Gyökeres could not do anything against De Ligt. Every time that David Raya went long from the back, De Ligt was there dominating Gyökeres. Gyökeres did not have a sniff in this game. De Ligt was too good, too strong for him. And this is key to the way that United are pressing. Because we now trust that we can deal with the long ball, which means we can commit more players to the shorter ball. Now, of course, I'm not just going to say all of this without giving you some examples, partly just because I want to watch Gyökeres get destroyed by De Ligt again. Pause. But anyway, David Raya here sends the ball long because Manchester United have pressed high. Potentially a problem. If Arsenal win this ball and pick up the second ball, they have lots of players in really good positions sort of running on to the second phase. But Manchester United have a De Ligt. De Ligt that Gyökeres could not deal with. De Ligt was too strong, too dominant in his position. Again here, Arsenal forced to play the ball long, but De Ligt is there reading the play, being strong and aggressive against Gyökeres, winning the first contact. Oh, you want another one? Okay, Raya sends the ball long. Look who is there. De Ligt, constantly sending that ball right back where it came from. And that is key for a high-pressing side. Just think Virgil van Dijk at Liverpool for the past however many seasons now. Liverpool have been able to press because Dijk has got them out of jail with the long ball. De Ligt is now doing something similar for United. Now, of course, that particular job is something that De Ligt has been required to do from the centre of the defence. He has often been faced up against the opposition number 9, so he has been responsible for the long ball. However, against Chelsea, we saw something a little bit different, because Leny Yoro came out of the side, De Ligt moved towards the right-hand side, and Maguire came into this position here. So now Maguire is the one responsible for this ball, he is the one that's got to deal with it. That means for De Ligt, he is now going to have a very, very different challenge, particularly when United are in the mid-block and trying to apply pressure. In the block, United are often in a sort of 5-2-3 shape that looks a little bit like this, and what we will often see is our wide centre-backs trying to attach themselves to the opposition midfielders. So Shaw in this position here, De Ligt in this position here. The problem is this is a really difficult job. Leny Yoro early on in the season has struggled with this on a few occasions, because as the opposition have dropped deeper, Yoro has been hesitant to go and follow him. De Ligt wasn't. Manchester United didn't get outnumbered in the midfield against Chelsea because De Ligt was willing to follow them into these positions, and because Chelsea had 10 men. 10. Granted, it was eventually 10 versus 10. But De Ligt being aggressive allowed United to squeeze into these positions. And even at 11 versus 11 for the first 5 minutes, and then the rest of the first half in particular, De Ligt was really aggressive with his movement. He was willing to go pretty much everywhere. We saw Chelsea midfielders dropping all the way over here, and De Ligt was still going with them. Now, something that actually encouraged me was the fact that we still saw this at the start of the second half when it was now 10 versus 10. Unfortunately, past sort of the 55th, the 60th minute, it started to stop, and that's when United became a little bit passive, but perhaps that's fine because we won 2-0. But early on in the half, De Ligt was aggressive. You can see him here in the centre circle, other side of the halfway line, whilst the Chelsea goalkeeper has the ball. That's a really advanced starting position for a wide centre-back. A centre-back, but look how high he is. And he was willing to follow. Santos, the Chelsea midfielder here, drops deeper to receive the ball. De Ligt doesn't even hesitate to go with him. You can see up here, if I just highlight it a little bit better, De Ligt immediately sort of gets his head down and starts running. He doesn't hesitate. He is willing to follow that player wherever he goes. And he does that. You know, the Chelsea player now can't receive the ball in this position. He can't receive this little pass here because he's got De Ligt right on his back. And that means that Chelsea have less options to play from the back because De Ligt was so aggressive. We also saw it again just a couple of minutes later. Again, De Ligt willing to step out of the defence, leaving his back 5, being aggressive and giving United the extra player in midfield. He even was willing to go all the way over here. The problem was eventually it gets to the point where he doesn't really want to go any further, and Chelsea did then have the spare man because eventually De Ligt has to drop back off to centre-back. But initially, he was pressing very well and doing this wide centre-back role, probably the best that we've seen from any United player so far this season. Now, despite United trying to press, there are still plenty of situations where Manchester United are forced deep, and then we rely on box defence. In these moments, United are quite passive. The opposition can build possession, they can gain territory, they can get themselves into a good advanced position. The good thing is, in the current Manchester United system, we can have, not always, but we can have 3 centre-backs across the box, which you would think gives us more physicality in the box, particularly when one of them is Ligt, who I would say is a clutch defender. You know, the numbers don't necessarily back it up, but when you watch him, you just get that feeling that he's gonna bail you out. He's one of those defenders who always seems just ready for that mistake. You know, he's ready for a bit of miscontrol here and for that second ball to break. He always just seems to sniff out these moments and react in time before clearing the ball away. I think, again, he's a clutch defender. I don't really know how else to word it. It's not exactly great analysis, but he just has this ability to get you out of trouble, whether that be a block on the goal line, a clearance, a last second tackle, an interception. He just seems switched on. Now, I think actually the best way I would describe this is that De Ligt is a pessimistic defender. And what I mean by that is he's almost always ready for the worst. So you can see him here. He is the middle centre-back on this occasion, first day of the season against Arsenal. The ball at the moment isn't his. This is nothing to do with him. He's the middle centre-back just providing cover. But he almost anticipates and expects Euro to be beaten. And that's what I mean by being a pessimistic defender. He's almost ready for the worst. He's ready for that ball to break, or a teammate to make a mistake, or slip, or be beaten, something like that. He's anticipating the error. He's anticipating the opposition getting themselves into a good position. And because he has that anticipation, as well as fairly decent mobility, I would say, he is able to get across and shut down the danger. You can see it again here. Anticipation in the box. The ball is wide on the left-hand side. De Ligt isn't assuming that his teammates are going to deal with the ball. He's actually assuming that he himself is going to have to do some defending here. And he does. He notices the space. He notices where Arsenal have got a spare man creeping into the box. So he simply steps out, clears it away, nice and comfortable. And I really like this one against Chelsea as well. United on the edge of their own box, racing back towards their own goal, where you never want to be. You never want to be facing your own goal as a defender. De Ligt just has a quick look, just a quick glance over his left shoulder, and he sees the player at the back post. He realises he needs to put the burners on, so he sprints back towards his own goal. And then again, he's got the brilliant clearance. And this is what I'm talking about with that clutch gene. He just has a way of clearing the ball that some way, somehow, seems to get the ball away from danger. It's not always pretty, but it's just effective. Now, of course, all of this defensive work is really good. We need that at United. But ultimately, these days, to be classed as a complete player, particularly a complete defender, you've got to be able to play on the ball. And this is probably an area where I've been a little bit concerned about De Ligt since signing for Manchester United. I think he's okay on the ball. I think he's solid, but I don't think he's amazing. But at the start of the season, I would say he's been playing pretty well. We saw in that first game against Arsenal his abilities play out from the back. Obviously, the centre-backs were splitting, De Ligt was in the middle, and he was the one responsible for playing those bounce passes around the corner, like we can see in this clip here. And he did it very well in that match. What we are also looking for, though, is someone that can move the ball forward. And this is probably where De Ligt struggles a little bit more. He's not necessarily an incisive passer. He's not someone who is constantly going to fire the ball through the lines into the feet of a striker or into the feet of a number 10. It's not really what he does. However, one thing he has been doing for United this season is using his longer passing range. Now, I still think he can do it more, but so far he is actually in the top 5 for the amount of long passes completed amongst Manchester United players. So I would say he's doing it a decent amount, and it can be a useful tactical weapon. We know that United often attack with a front 5, so our inside forwards can occupy the opposition fullback, and we potentially have a wing-back spare on the far side and also on the near side over here. What you then need is someone who can find them. And early in the season, you know, I'm not going to say De Ligt is suddenly an amazing long passer because he's not, but he looks more confident attempting these balls. Out to the left, out to the right, he looks more confident than what he did before. Now, this is obviously more the case on his stronger foot, on his right foot, but you can see how useful a weapon this can be. Because in one pass, we go from this position here in our own half to suddenly just outside the opposition's penalty area. Unfortunately, De Ligt doesn't have quite the same passing range on his left foot at the moment. This one, not quite as progressive. It's actually a little bit behind Dalot and quite difficult to control. But you can see, if you're going to be the middle player in this position, there are going to be situations where you've got time on the ball, and you do need to find a way forward. De Ligt's not perfect with this yet, but I think he's improving. All in all, I think De Ligt has had a really strong start to the new season. I think he's been one of Manchester United's best players. He's been in every single starting 11 in the Premier League and produced pretty darn consistent performances. He's been excellent on that box defence, he's been aggressive in the air, and when needed, he's also been pressing the opposition. Do I think he can do more with his possession work? Yeah, he's not Lisandro Martinez, is he? He does have areas where he can improve, but he's actually still a lot younger than what you would probably think. He's still never played 2 consecutive seasons under the same manager. If Manchester United can provide some stability for him now, De Ligt can go on to be a very useful player for United, and maybe one of the best defenders in the Premier League. I think he's got areas where he needs to improve. I think he can get even stronger in the air because his percentages aren't amazing right now, but the amount he's winning is still pretty good. I think he can be a really good player for United and probably cement himself as United's starting centre-back this season. That is what I am expecting to see. For now, we just have to enjoy what we've seen so far, which has been really good, consistent performances from De Ligt, which have levelled up the Manchester United defence. Hopefully, it's going to continue, but that's a conversation for another day, so we're going to stop the video there. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.